Our final storyteller of the evening truly exemplifies that the march goes on. Kamorah Carter is a senior at Bloomington High School. She holds leadership positions in many of Bloomington High School's social justice clubs, such as Not in Our School and Promise Council, as well as being a member of NIO's steering committee. Cammie is also co-captain of the color guard for the BHS Marching Raiders. All right. And when I contacted her to be a storyteller, she was in the middle of band camp. And if you know what summer band camp is like, you know it's intense. And she still eagerly agreed to come and tell a story. Cammie stated, "An activist I admire would have to be Mary Applington." I'm gonna cry. "The way she goes about things is so fluid and consistent. I hope to be like her in the future." Please welcome Cammie Carter.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cammie. I'm a senior at Bloomington High School. I was not alive in the 1960s. But I'm very excited to share with you how things are going to continue to progress in the future. When I was in elementary school, my mom ran an in-home daycare called Classic Kids Daycare. And, you know, in District 87, we had the day off in January. I think it's like the third Monday in January. We had the day off for Martin Luther King Day. But the daycare kids would still come over to the house, so we would spend that entire day learning about Martin Luther King, everything he did for Black people, and how we just like came together as a society and tried to fix things in a peaceful way. And those days always stuck with me, you know, because I was learning it with people I had grown up with my entire life. It was something that I had found myself infatuated with from the start. I just thought that the way he went about things was so different from what I heard. You know, I was always hearing about violence and, you know, fighting in a physical way instead of a verbal way to get to where you wanted to be. And getting those constant reminders that, you know, physical isn't the route that you have to take all the time was really beneficial. Even throughout those Martin Luther King Mondays that I stayed at home and watched the snowfall when we weren't watching Martin Luther King documentaries, I can't say that I knew how to go about following in his footsteps. I was terrified of speaking up due to circumstances that I went through in elementary school. I was just like, okay, maybe I should just watch from afar. And I was affected by COVID, so I was like, okay, I'm about to go to high school. This is like 13-year-old me. I'm about to go to high school. I'm about to do all this. I'm about to be great. And then COVID hit. And I was stuck at home for about a year and a half. But one of my friends, Jolie Ortiz, I had a Halloween party my sophomore year of high school, and she was like, okay, well, since your party's ending, do you want to go trick-or-treating around some other neighborhoods? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we went trick-or-treating, and on the way back home, she was like, you know, NIOS is having their first meeting in like 3 or 4 years next Monday, you should come. And I was like, I don't know about that. But then she was like, well, I'm going to be there, such and such is going to be there, such and such is going to be there. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I just, I fell in love with the work that they were doing. You know, the NIOS that I had heard of at Bloomington Junior High School was just something, I was terrified of it. I was like, how can such a small person, such a young person like me have such a major impact on the community? Like getting to high school and seeing people who genuinely cared about not just our community, but surrounding communities, the state, the country, the world, it really inspired me to follow in that path rather than let the fear of what if I can't do this envelop me. So since my first NIOS meeting, I have taken over as leadership and thank you. And within that, I was onboarded into an iOS steering community, Bloomington Normal, which, as a brief description, it envelops Bloomington, U High, and both West schools, and we just do a bunch of stuff around the community to make people feel involved with their, I'm trying to think of like a synonym for classmate, but it's not working. Last summer, we had a cultural arts night at Coffee House, and then this past June, we had a Juneteenth-centered event at Coffee House. Those both went really well, and it was just a very open experience. It allowed a lot of people to connect, it allowed a lot of people to see what others had to offer, and I think that's really wonderful in itself. What inspires me to keep going is 6-year-old me sitting on a couch watching the Martin Luther King documentary. But it's also my mom. I used to go to her a lot when I was little, maybe until around 7th grade, and I used to be like, Mom, there's just people that don't look like me. Like, I'm safe here, and that's great, but there's just, I don't look like 95% of my classmates. She was like, well, that's kind of the reason why I moved down here. She's from the south side of Chicago, and she was like, if you had stayed in Chicago, you would have met more people that look like you, but you wouldn't have been as safe. And those words stick with me every time I try to come up with a new project to bring the community together, because even though I may not look like majority of the Twin Cities, I am able to find people that I connect with, not just because of their skin tone or their hair type or, you know, the personal struggles that they go through, but our interests, what we like, what we don't like, the changes that we want to see within our community. And then there's also a quote by an artist that I really like. His name is McLean. And one of the quotes that he said recently was, everything is a mess because the adults are trying to clean up. And I'm sure he doesn't mean that in a way like, oh, adults are screwing everything up, we're done for. But as times change, it is difficult to acclimate yourself to what is new, what is different. And having lived here my entire life, I've been able to see what has changed, what is different, what is new. And you know, when people from past generations, they get stuck in certain mindsets on occasion. And so it's difficult to try to apply those stagnant mindsets to a frequently changing community. So within my story, I would like to see Bloomington Normal grow even closer as a community. I heard someone describe it as a suburb without a city, and I think that's such a beautiful way to describe the Twin Cities. This is my home. I love seeing it grow. I love seeing the different communities that we all have within one huge community. I feel like we're all really close within one another, even though we may not know everybody's names. Yeah, thank you.
I can't think of a better way to end. I mean, wow. March on.